Opportunities in technology and online spaces are often intertwined with the hidden risk of polarization and addiction. This was one of the focus points of the recently released Netflix documentary, The Social Dilemma. In today's episode, our guests discuss how social responsibility can help us better understand the byproducts of digitalization and its impact on industry. It is necessary for innovation and digital services to cater for people's and society's long-term needs. For years, the ICT Association of Hungary has considered this responsibility a pivotal part of its operation. As such, we regularly deal with matters of ethics and digital trust, which are the central topics of HubIT, a project whose aim is to draw the attention of organizations to the importance of responsible research and innovation. Today's episode is brought to you with the help of HubIT. Gábor Szirtes is currently the AI Research Director of OT1. In the past, he dealt with the computer modeling of a number of cerebral functions in the US, in Germany, and in Hungary at Alta University. Since 2012, he's been making AI-based business solutions for partners in various industries. Is there a dilemma between social media and technology? Is there something we could improve?
Well, obviously there is, because we have this question and we have this movie many people talk about. How I think maybe I have a different look on this issue. So the thing is that I don't know what technology in general means. I see many disparate tools that we can use for the greater good, or actually against ourselves or against the society. So I believe that the main question is how we can maintain control over any tools that people around us can use. How we can maintain control over the tools that, for example, the governmental organizations can use for us or against us. And I think that one of the main reasons for all these tensions is that there is a gap between our mental preparedness and the actual opportunities that technology offers. So what I mean by that is that I believe that basically, we live in a society just for, about like, let's say 10,000 years, and this time from an evolutionary perspective is quite short, and we can use those tools and actions for the survival that we learned in the past. However, these tools may be just not the right answers to these problems. So, for example, we all have the desire to belong. So then the question is how you define the group you want to belong to. And the problem with these social media platforms is that they offer a virtual tribe where you want to belong. And actually this is where the manipulation starts. They do want you to have this desire to belong to various groups, but actually these groups have nothing to share, and in many cases you don't have much in common with other members in those virtual groups. So that's why there is a tension that you do want to belong, you do want to get feedback. However, there is no real connection between these between the members of these groups, and the problem is that the technology behind these platforms actually can be used to exploit you in a very succinct way, in many implicit and explicit ways, and in many cases you are just not aware of being manipulated, and that's the problem. So we as human beings are experts on analyzing human emotions. We understand in many cases we do understand what other people can feel during a social interaction. We can understand, we can decode others' intentions. However, in the digital world, in this virtual society, emojis just cannot cannot just convey the message, the emotional message. So these are just very abstract code words, but they don't mean actually anything, and that's a big problem. Normally, in a normal human interaction, it's a fact that we rarely send factual information to each other. So it's about like 80% of our oral communication is about maintaining the communication and sending signals about our emotional state. And only 15 or 20% is about like sharing information. Now that's the big problem. And I think I don't know how to actually improve the current solutions. Yes, I know there I've been working on human computer interaction problems, and there are lots of people interested in this, but we are far away from having a really good and sound answer to all these issues. But yes, there is a problem, and I think till we don't come up with a better technical solution to all these questions, we have one weapon. Actually, this is education, and we don't need technology in the education. We need psychology. That's actually something. It's a very big missing part of current education, that we don't teach our kids how to get prepared for this kind of manipulations, illusions, and like fake attractions. So I think that's one way to to cope with all these issues.
You did talk about how you're not sure how we could improve it apart from education and psychology. There's something about outside control.
It's I think that again that's it's one of the central issues, that when we talk about the web, the internet, we look at it as a entity, something that that just exists on its own, and it's like an alien from Mars. But it actually is not. It's just like a very complex technology owned and governed by companies, in part by some government, but there's no unified system to control them. So just let me give you a few examples. Now you see that there are lots of antitrust negotiations, basically antitrust cases against like big companies, Facebook, Google, just to name a few. But that's fine. But this is just like the legal aspect of the biggest issues, and it's as long as, for example, the legislation lags behind actually the actual evolution of technology, then there are going to be no proper legal actions to all the emerging problems. So that's why that I don't think that simple legal actions can help. We need awareness. We need a broad social awareness. And what I mean by that is that within each society, if the awareness level can get to a point where actually like stakeholders cannot avoid listening, then I think that at some point there will be like a turning point where when governments and big industry players, big companies must cooperate. So let's think about it. You see that there are lots of trends showing that people do realize that for example, using Facebook can be addictive. So many people try to use like some sort of self-control methods in order to like minimize the time they spend in front of the screen, or using Facebook, or using any social media platforms or channels. and actually that helps. So now think about it. What's going to happen when this movement, gets strong enough? Is it a bad thing if I don't know, if the influence of Facebook is is getting a little bit weaker, or actually is it a bad thing? Because no one can deny that social platforms can be quite useful, and actually in many cases actually what they do is something for the greater good of the community, of the society. The problem is that we don't know how to hit the right balance, and that's the biggest question. But I do think that we have to actively look for the ways how we can impose a control over all these kinds of technologies. But for that, first we need to name those organizations or those individuals who are responsible for the maintenance of these technologies. So that's not okay if we just see like I don't know, like a black hole, and there are no humans involved. We just talk about technology. As long as we talk about technology, then we cannot achieve anything. So this is the very old moral questions about whether like a knife is dangerous or not. A knife itself is not dangerous. A knife becomes dangerous when it is used as a weapon. And in this respect, I don't see any big difference between using like next generation technologies versus like caveman's axes. And this is the topic where we can talk about it for hours and hours. And the main issue, how we can actually become more constructive, how we can turn thoughts into real actions. So I'm right now I'm a research scientist. I lead the artificial intelligence research group at OTT1. It's a relatively big IT company in Hungary. And of course, we want to make money, so we want to create products that can be sold. So for which there might be a market. That's fine. But on the other hand, all the things we learn can actually be used and fed back into the society, into the education system, and could be used for the greater good, as I emphasized earlier. And I see miracles in many times. Like I see how like a common technology can be translated into something really useful, something tangible, like helping like mentally challenged people cope with all the everyday tasks. Something that whenever you take something granted, then you're fine as long as you have it. Once you lose it, then the question how you can survive without all these gifts, and technology can help. And what's really interesting is that in poor societies, of course the need is there, but the money is missing. So they have to be smart. And what you can witness is that in many cases, smart people like in India, in China, in Africa can use technology, and they basically leap forward in the future. So they just skip some of the states we have gone through in the past few decades, and they come up with very smart solutions, basically using small money. And what they can achieve it's amazing, because the living standards of many people can rise at exceptional. So that's just amazing. So this is a good set. I'm not against technology, because this is what I love. I'm more worried about losing control, and I don't have the right answers for all the challenges, but at least I'm aware of some of the problems. Maybe not maybe I'm not following exactly the tone of the movie, and I'm also like Stephen Hawking, talks a lot about the danger of the coming artificial intelligence time. I don't quite believe that actually we are there, but yes, there are dangers. And one problem that's something that we haven't touched yet is that we all have this illusion about being unique. And why? Yes, we are unique. In many cases, our personal, experiences, our memories are different. But once you have tools, to watch individuals, and also when you can collect data over large population, then it turns out that you become predictable. And in some sense, this is the old story. This is about like marketing, because people do tend to do very similar things. Because we are human beings. You need to feed yourself and so on and so on. But the problem is that we are just not. It's very hard to accept the level of predictability, and these technologies allow for extremely precise predictions about unique lives, and this is very scary. And we don't have the right answers for all these challenges, but we'll see.
Dr. Barnabas Sassi leads an interdisciplinary behavior change research team at ELTE, while simultaneously working with a number of public institutions, NGOs, and international companies on behavior change projects. He has a degree in economics and psychology and completed his PhD in the field of decision research, while conducting research at Columbia, Oklahoma, and Princeton universities.
I think it was apparent also from the movie that there are certain things that you can predict very well and certain things that you cannot predict very well. One thing that you can predict is the small changes in people's behavior, and you can design environments and you can design mobile apps and whole ecosystems which will guide your which will push you to make some small choices rather than others, or which will help you to adapt some habits. These are things that I wouldn't say they are easy to predict, and but we are able to predict them, and we are able to design system to predict. I think the part which is very hard to predict is when it comes on a societal level and on a system level, how the whole how people in the society interact, and how when do we reach a tipping point. The tipping point is a typical expression. I think it was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell, and tries to say something that after a certain behavior is adopted by a certain amount of people in the society, it starts to become a norm. And also the same things happened with the whole social media networks, that you can predict the behavior of one person, but when it comes to the society, it's very hard to do. And the same behavior which doesn't do any harm on an individual level, it can do a lot of harm on the societal level. That would be my take on that. So, but to answer the specific question, I don't think that Facebook or anybody knew what kind of effect they are going to have, and I think this is also apparent from the responses from the interviewees from the movie. And I in this regard, I really believe in their honesty, because I think nobody knew.
What can motivate companies to use a more ethical business model? How can we change the way the current model works?
I wish I knew that. This is a super complex and super hard question. I have some thoughts on it. First, so I think there are like two main ways to start businesses to make certain behaviors. One is competition, and the other one are regulation. So these are basically like the two major forces that also in the you can see, for example, in the US political sphere, like the Democrats say that, okay, competition, no, so the Republicans are for competition, while the Democrats are for regulation. And this is because basically competition can help. How can competition help? I think because I think both can help. Competition can help because we like good companies. We like companies who want to help us, and we who are not, who as consumers, we don't fear that they betray us, they want to use us, and they do social good. So, and if there is real competition, we will, at the end, those companies will win the heart of the consumers, who will be also aligned on these social purpose questions. But here comes one of the big problems on this social media scene, that many of the companies are monopolies, and as they are monopolies, there are no real competition. So we, as a consumers, we don't have anywhere to go. So we stay and still use their products, even if we are not if we don't some features, some ethical parts of their product. So, and here comes the regulation part, which is again like not an easy solution, because there can be many things regulated, and even if you regulate something and tell businesses to do something, there are always ways to go around, and always those who have money and power can easily go around. But still, I think there should be, and there will be, some more regulations which will help to which will incentivize to the businesses, the big businesses in the social media sphere to behave more ethically. One of my last, so I have two more little thoughts on that. One is that one more thing is that really can motivate people is consumer consciousness. Although again, when it is about a monopoly, even if only a few of us is able to make a hard choice, like, okay, I'm not going to use Facebook, or I'm not going to use Twitter because of some features of them, but because I don't have anywhere else to go, and that's the place where I find the information, and when I can find the contacts who I need. So it's very hard to make that choices. But still, if we are conscious, and in those cases when we have a choice, we have to be conscious as consumers and need to focus on the on those companies whose goals are aligned with our goals. And one last things regarding to the ethical part. I think many companies believe that if they tell the consumers that how do they manipulate them, what kind of experiment they use, or how do they behave, they feel that their consumers will go away from them. But what we have seen in several experiments, actually there were experiments where this feature was manipulated, and it found that people didn't change their behavior or their attitude because they knew that they were manipulated, but they really preferred to know what was happening to them. So in general, I think from an ethical point of view, it's better to inform consumers about what is happening to them, and we as businesses don't have to be afraid of informing the consumers.
Can we maintain a healthy relationship with social media and the technology behind it?
You are not helping me because you are not asking easy questions. I think again, the answer is yes and no. For some people, for some situations, we can have a healthy relationship, but in other situations we can't. And here comes again like consumer consciousness, and whether we can nudge ourselves to cultivate a healthy relationship, because actually this healthy relationship can come from two sides. Either the big social media companies can change their behavior and change their products in order us to help us to have an easier, a healthier relationship with their products. But this was the other point that we were talking about, that why is this not happening, or why this is not happening that fast. And the other side, what can we do about it? If they don't change, what can we do about it? And of course, there are a lot of things that we can do to make our rules, not to bring our smartphones into the bedroom, for example, or just another example, I have Stay Focused on my computer installed on. This is a program which helps me to set a certain time when it doesn't let me to read the news, and doesn't let me to go to social media sites, for example, to Facebook, or we can uninstall several programs, but there is a huge individual difference what works for whom. So there is not an easy answer, and the only thing that we can do, and what I urge everybody to do, is to experiment on yourself, on what works on you. And just because something doesn't work for you, it doesn't mean that if you really think about it and try to be innovative on how to manipulate yourself, it won't help you.